Hey, welcome back to Night Owl Mogwai Talk, keeping you up on the latest Mogwai news. And the latest Mogwai news this week is episode 6 of Gremlins, Secrets of the Mogwai, the Max series that has been sweeping the nation. Actually, no one anywhere cares about this show. So I'm here to help you get the condensed version and just burn through it so you don't have to sit and watch 5 hours of this TV show. Let's get on with reviewing episode 6, shall we? Let's. Okay, coming right off of episode 5 into episode 6, we start with the kids back on the road to the Ghost City. While the kids are walking, we see Riley Green's big diesel yacht come clunking up along the shoreline. They've both arrived at the Ghost City at pretty much the same time. Tension, am I right? Sam explains to Elle the Ghost City has the key to the Jade Valley in it, but they have no idea what that means. Sam gets all that information from these handwritten books he's gotten. I've been calling them the Gremlinomicon. At this point, the whole group is trying to unlock the secret way to get into the Valley of Jade. Then we see the Mogwai come burning over the hill and tops of buildings and start overrunning the town, doing their Mogwai thing. Pretty much a modern-day version of Johnny Knoxville and the Jackass Gang. Smacking each other in the head and falling down and cracking up. Gizmo leads the group to a big archway that looks fallen down and wrecked and starts breaking out into his Mogwai siren song. And within the arch to the old school doorway, we see a magical portal to a spirit market. But little does our group know that Snout is hiding behind a rock watching them and comes sneaking up behind them and tries to jump through the portal just as they all go through, but the portal closes right in Snout's face and he can't make it. Our gang, now inside the spirit market, inside the Ghost City, walks around and looks at all the amazing sights they see. Neon dayglow ghosts virtually beyond description. Next thing you know, Theodore comes to life and announces he's Theodora. And she starts sashaying her long locks around, and she's fabulous. Then, just to add to the jumbled up mishmash of animation characters, a fox comes out and decides he's gonna eat that Mogwai. Another weird ghost that looks like a bantha strikes up a conversation with Gizmo and points him in the direction of this old bar up on the hill where the creator of all things is getting drunk. So let's have a talk here. First of all, this episode's called By God a Drink. This woman whose god is, I believe, played by Sandra Oh. She's so disenchanted with human beings that as soon as she sees Sam and Elle, she kind of snarls at him, and she's happy to see Gizmo. She's got a past relationship with Gizmo. But while they're talking, a bunch of angry ghosts come bursting through the bar door, intent on eating Gizmo and getting that immortality that we keep hearing about. The goddess of all things uses her weird Jedi Sith powers and force pushes all the ghosts out the door so she can get back to drinking. Then we cut back to Snout explaining to Claw and Riley Green how the Gremlin siren song can open up the magic portal. So Riley has all the gremlins out there singing away at the outside of this door to no dice. Riley tells all of them to shut up and realizes one of them has a voice that's on key. So a man here with the cool sideburns is instructed to sing his little heart out or else. He busts out into his little version of the song, and of course it works beautifully. The portal opens up and all the gremlins are able to run into the spirit market and infest the place like roaches. So since the tension is rising, by rule we have to cut away. We see Gizmo and the creator of all things getting caught up, and Gizmo explains that these are my friends, and she doesn't like it one bit. She says, "You let them call you Gizmo? That's not your name." And Gizmo kind of waves her off like, "Shh, leave it be, leave it be." So I'm glad that they're trying to sand out some of the rough edges regarding Gizmo being named Gizmo before Randall Peltzer, the inventor, found him, because that still makes absolutely no sense why he would be named that. So they're saying his name is something bigger and longer and more complicated that sounds like Gizmo, like Chewbacca being Chewie or whatever. She says humans are always up to no good, so they can't go to the Jade Valley, but you can. So Gizmo is sad that they're not going to be able to go along, but he gives his hugs to Sam and to Elle, and at that second, Elle picks Gizmo up and jumps into the portal, trying to steal him and get into the Jade thing. If you remember, Elle's whole mission on this is she wants to go to the Valley of Jade to get a bunch of treasure for herself so she can then live her life avoiding Riley Green. You know, she can move to the other side of the world or whatever. So just as Elle gets her head into the portal and gets a glimpse of the beautiful Jade City and all the little gems and treasures just laying around on the ground, the creator of all things uses her Sith powers to pull back Elle and lift up Sam and her into the sky and start to chastise them in between drinks. The gremlins begin overtaking the spirit market the way the gremlins do, Mogwaiing it up. One of the Mogwais begins devouring magical potions sitting on an old abandoned cart. Theodora has now found a bunch of magical Radish friends to commiserate with, and Radish comes over and says, "Hey, we need to get out of here." Riley then walks over to the gremlin who's been devouring potions and realizes we now have a smart one that talks, just like in Gremlins 2. Riley then goes over to Captain Claw and refers to him as Mr. Claw, and Claw interrupts and says, Ms. Claw. So Riley took that about as well as I did, and we move on. We cut to God inside the bar, half drunk, slurring at the kids, yelling at them, chewing them out. Reminds me a lot of my step-grandma Sandy. Shout out to her. Anyways, her old drunk ass is yelling at the kids, and Gizmo's had just about enough, so she decides it's time to give exposition. We see the goddess of all things and her brother were the creators of all life on the planet. Her brother didn't believe in humans, she did. So they decided to make a test to test the humans, the Mogwai. She brought Gizmo to life, and he created the rules that the Mogwai have to live by. Don't get them wet, don't let them see bright light or get in the sun, and don't feed them after the point where the moon is highest in the sky. But her brother cursed the Mogwai to spend the first 100 years of their lives as tricksters, which explains earlier why I didn't understand why some of them are evil and some of them are good, and it seemed like only Gizmo was good. The goddess of all creation then gave the Mogwais to the human as a beautiful gift, and before she could even return to the spirit world, they'd already broken all the rules and the Mogwai were running amok and burning everything to the ground. So with total disappointment in humanity, she scoops up all the remaining Mogwais in Gizmo and takes them away to the furry green butthole sitting in the side of the mountain. So then the goddess of creation, no longer having any faith in anything since humanity had let her down, gave up creating altogether and went into the getting drunk business. At this point we cut to Sam and Elle feeling human guilt, and Gizmo has had just about enough of her putting down his friends, and he starts one of his famous Gizmo curse-outs. And before that ever even gets off the ground, we notice a bunch of Mogwai pouring in through the hole in the ceiling and the damn rubble. So ODB starts snapping her fingers thinking she's gonna do her old Sith magic bit, and nothing happened. The Mogwai starts snapping back at her and laughing and mocking her, and she realizes, uh-oh, I've been poisoned. So just as she crumbles to the ground and realizes she's in trouble, I don't know how you poison God, this show's insane. At that point, Riley Green comes stepping in and he says, you know what? You're gonna open the door to the Valley of Jade, or I'm gonna let you die. Your choice. Dun dun dun, dramatic music. And the show ends for the week. What? What? I'm not even going to do the thing where I change all this. I hated this so much. Oh, this was absolutely terrible. This was the worst episode so far. All the episodes were good up until this point. The first episode I kind of was watching with my arms folded like, I dare you to entertain me, dumb show that I'm not happy you're making. Because I'm a childish man baby about these things. But it was good and it was entertaining, and it evolved into kind of this like Scooby-Doo, Real Ghostbusters, Tales from the Crypt cartoon. The horror cartoonness of it was entertaining and fun. I was enjoying the heck out of it. And then, I said heck. When we got to the point now with this episode where they're into the spirit world and everything turns on its head and they go to a totally different style of animation, and there's multiple styles of animation, and I'm not talking about, there's the part where they do backstory stuff and the exposition, like, explain what happens. All of that stuff is usually cool. The stuff with Grandpa and the stuff with the old scrolls where they explain the backstory of the gremlin. I like all that animation change, but all of the animation together in one area, like, I know that's the point, but it just so cognitively dissonant. It just looks all jumbled up and messy. It's hard to keep track of what's going on, and it's confusing. And besides the whole politics of the two separate gender swap reveals, regardless of any of that, just the whole thing where they are teaching children that God or the spirit of the universe or whatever you want to call it, they call it the goddess of creation, but the story is titled Buy God a Drink. So they know what they're saying, and they even call her God a couple times. And just the fact that they say God's an old drunk who gave up on you, and that's the reason everything's broken because God hates humanity and stuff. Between this and the Nugs and the old episode and stuff like that, this show is steering into college kid territory. This is not the type of thing that I would want to show a 7-year-old. Like in the last episode, we saw a small child stab someone in the chest repeatedly with an old knife, and then later on take an axe and stab a bunch of people or slam a bunch of people in the chest with the axe. So now we've got, not only to mention the zombies that bite people and change them into whatever they are, now you're going to send a kid to bed with the idea that, yeah, the universe hates you, but, maybe tomorrow the universe will like us again. Fingers crossed. Anyways, love you. Good night. Light switch, door close. What are you doing? This is terrible, Gremlins. Absolutely terrible. I'm mad that this show was good enough for 5 episodes to make me care. So now that I'm annoyed by it. So ultimately, I think that, I'm going to keep watching because they've built up enough equity with me in the first 5 episodes that I enjoyed, that now that this has come along, I'm just sort of got my arms folded. I checked to make sure that this wasn't written by Rian Johnson. Like, I was so annoyed at this. Just portraying God as this old, broken down, drunken Medusa-looking biddy. She looks like she should be selling grilled cheese sandwiches in the parking lot of a Dead and Company show. The problem is this episode is going to end, and now there's a week where this just hangs out in the ether. I noticed in the description for this episode, it says that they try to convince God to change her mind about humanity or whatever. So they know that there's some backlash about how this ended on the cliffhanger with God just hating people. And I saw that next week the whole crew is in the Valley of Jade. I hate that name. Every time I say it, it sounds dumb. It sounds like a failed vegetable company, or like the knockoff version of Hidden Valley Ranch dressing, right? Like, I don't like it. Every time I hear it, it makes my neck tense up. But so next week they're in the Valley of Jade, the big giant green butthole. So if the whole crew's in there, did she sell us out, God? Like, I don't know. So yeah, we're on a cliffhanger. I'm unhappy. Next week we'll see what my puss likes when we get in there. I think I'm gonna have this puss going in next week. But other than that, did you watch this? Did you like this? Were you happy to see me all angry at a dumb cartoon show and acting over ridiculous for a grown man at a children's show? Because you should, and I understand how ridiculous it is. But it's been good up until now, so that's disappointing, man. You shouldn't let me down like that. Gremlins, Secret of the Mogwai. How dare you? Anyway, so I'll catch you guys later when I'm more of a right mind. Love you.